How much does Powell put into his equation that we probably can't afford to even pay the interest right now in these debts as a nation? So how much does that come into his mind? And what's your thoughts on, rates being so high and not being able to afford the interest payments for our country?
Yeah, it's a good question. Officially, he will say this is a Treasury problem, and this is a fiscal policy problem. So that's something that Congress needs to be thinking about and worrying about. Of course, everything intersects with everything else, So to the extent that higher interest rates on the entire yield curve are slowing down investment and they're slowing down real estate and they're impacting the mortgage rate that you're getting. That comes home to roost for him as well. I think that one of the great moments of my lifetime in economics was the deal that Clinton and it was Robert Rubin was the Treasury Secretary. They cut a deal with Greenspan, and Greenspan was a deficit hawk. He did not feel comfortable with what deficits were going to do to interest rates, and he was, in fact, probably way ahead of his time in being so worried about deficits. Right now, we might be seeing deficit impacts on the yield curve. They weren't really that evident in the 1990s, but he nonetheless cut a deal with Clinton saying for every 500 million that you can, it wasn't 500 million, it might have been 500 billion, but it was a 500 of some number of zeros. But he said, for every increment that you reduce the deficit, I will give you cover and cut interest rates further. And this is documented. It was a deal that was very positive between the Treasury and the Fed. And it was probably the most robust run that we've had in my lifetime of good financial markets and stability in government. Like the US government having a budget and running a surplus, like just unfathomable today and probably for the rest of our lives. But there is interaction between the two entities, Treasury and Fed. Often it's very bad. The history of the Fed is the history of central banks is that when you don't have enough money in the Treasury, you go to the central bank and say, I need more money. This was the opposite of, the Fed saying, get your act together and we will help you with lower interest rates.